My mother has never once in her life asked me anything. She tells. That's just how it's always been, and for 31 years I accepted it as a fact of life, the way you accept bad weather or traffic. You don't like it, but you work around it. So when she called me on a Tuesday afternoon in early December, I wasn't surprised by her tone. I was in the middle of formatting a quarterly report for a client in Seattle. My second monitor had 3 spreadsheets open. I had a cold cup of coffee going stale next to my keyboard, and my phone lit up with her name. I almost let it go to voicemail. I wish I had. Your brother and his wife need to go to Phoenix, she said. No, hello. No. How are you? They've been planning this trip for months, a whole week. Anniversary trip. Okay, I said, because I didn't know yet what this had to do with me. So you're going to watch the kids. I set my pen down. My brother. I'll call him my brother because that's what he is, the only one I have, has 2 daughters. Addison is 7 and Lily is 4. They're sweet girls. I love them. I also have a job, a lease, and a life that requires me to be physically present and mentally functional during business hours, 5 days a week, sometimes more. Mom, I said carefully, I can't. I have work. I have deadlines this month that I've been building toward for weeks. You work from home. Yes, I work from home. Both of those words matter. You set your own hours. I set my hours based on what my clients need, which is not the same as setting them based on whatever the family decides to do. She made a sound. That sound. The one that means she's already decided I'm being unreasonable and everything I say from this point forward is just noise. Your brother works 50 hours a week in an office. His wife does everything at home with those 2 girls. They need a break. You're available. I'm not available. That's what I'm telling you. You're sitting in your apartment. Working. She didn't respond to that. She just moved forward the way she always does. Like a conversation is a formality she has to get through before arriving at the conclusion she already reached without me. I already told them you'd do it. They're planning around it. Don't make this complicated. I felt something tighten in my chest. Not quite anger yet. More like the very specific frustration of watching a wall go up around you while someone explains that the wall isn't really there. You told them before you asked me. I'm asking you now. No, I said. You're telling me now, after already committing me to something. That's not asking. Rebecca. The way she said my name like that, flat, final, like a period at the end of a sentence, used to shut me down completely. I'd been trained to go quiet when she said it that way. This is family. Family helps each other. I'd love to help them find a sitter they can trust. I can even help pay for part of it if they need. They don't need a stranger watching their children. Then maybe they need to adjust their trip. Or, I'll let them know you said yes, she said, and hung up. I sat there for a full minute just staring at my phone. Then I picked up the spreadsheet work again because what else was I going to do, and I finished the afternoon thinking she'd probably call back, or my brother would call and we'd actually have a conversation like adults. I'd explain that I genuinely could not take a week off in December without serious professional consequences. He'd understand. He's always been more reasonable than she is one-on-one. I sent my mom a text that evening. Short and clear, Mom, I can't commit to this. I have a client deadline the week of the 15th that I'd been scheduled for since October. Please let Trevor and Amber know so they can make other arrangements. I'm happy to help them find reliable childcare. She read it. I saw the read receipt. She didn't respond. I figured the silence meant she was annoyed but would eventually course correct. My brother would find out I'd said no. They'd book a sitter or rearrange the trip, and it would blow over the way these things usually do. Maybe there'd be some tension at Christmas. That was manageable. I was not prepared for what actually happened. 2 days later, on a Thursday morning, I was on a video call. A real one, camera on, sharing my screen, walking a client through a project timeline. This client is based in Austin, runs a mid-sized logistics company, and has been with me for almost 2 years. He's professional, patient, and he pays on time, which makes him essentially priceless. The call was scheduled for 11. It started at 11. Everything was normal. At 11:22, someone knocked on my door. I ignored it. They knocked again. Harder this time. I muted myself, held up one finger to the screen. One moment, and went to the door expecting a delivery I'd forgotten about, or maybe my neighbor with a package. I opened the door, and my brother's two daughters were standing in the hallway. Addison had her backpack on. Lily was holding a stuffed rabbit by one ear. Behind them was my sister-in-law Amber with a rolling suitcase and the expression of someone who had been told everything was handled. "Oh, good, you're home," she said. I could not speak for a moment. I was still half in the mental space of the client call, and the part of my brain trying to process what I was seeing was just buffering. "Amber," I finally said, "what is happening right now?" "We fly out in 3 hours." She was already moving the suitcase toward my door. "Your mom said you were all set. I have their routine written down. There's food in this bag. I'm on a call right now. A work call, with a client." She paused. Something flickered across her face. Not quite guilt, more like the realization that there might be a discrepancy between what she'd been told and what was actually true. But 3 hours is 3 hours, and she had a flight to catch. And whatever that realization was, she moved past it. "I'm sure you can wrap it up, right? It's almost noon." "The call goes until noon, and then I have two more after that." "Your mom said." "My mom was wrong," I said. "I texted her 2 days ago. I said I couldn't do this. I said clearly that I had work obligations this week." Addison was looking up at me. Lily had both arms around the rabbit now. Amber's expression shifted into something more complicated. She pulled out her phone and started typing. I assumed she was texting my mom. I went back inside and unmuted myself, apologized to my client for the interruption, and spent the next 30 minutes trying to hold together a professional presentation while quietly losing my mind. When the call ended, I went back to the door. Amber was still in the hallway, now on her phone. The girls were sitting on my floor just inside the entrance with their bags. "I just talked to your mom," Amber said. "She said you're confused, that you said you'd do it." "I have the text I sent her. Would you like to read it?" She looked at the phone I held out. She read it. Her jaw got a little tight. "She told us you were confirmed. She told you something that wasn't true. I'm sorry. I know that's not your fault, and I know this puts you in a terrible position. But I genuinely cannot take care of two kids this week. I have deliverables that I've promised to clients. Missing them would cost me professionally in ways I can't absorb right now." There was a long pause. I could see her running through the math of the situation, the flight, the hotel in Phoenix that was probably already paid for, the trip they'd been planning for their anniversary, versus the reality of what I was telling her. "So what are we supposed to do?" she asked. And there was real distress in it. I felt for her. I genuinely did. "She didn't make this decision. Call the airline and explain there's been a family emergency. Most carriers will work with you. There are also last-minute nanny services that do background checks. I can help you look. Or if my mom wants to watch her own grandchildren this week, she is welcome to do that." Amber called my brother. I heard her side of it through the half-open door. Muffled, tense. Then she came back and said she needed to make more calls. I told the girls they could come in and watch something while their mom figured it out. We put on a movie. I went back to my desk and tried to get through email. About 40 minutes later, Amber came and got them. She didn't say much. Her eyes were a little red. I hugged the girls and told them I loved them and I'd see them soon, and I watched them take the elevator down. Then I called my mom. She picked up on the second ring. "You told Trevor and Amber that I agreed," I said. "I texted you 2 days ago and said I couldn't do it. You read it. You didn't respond. And then you let them show up at my door anyway." "You were being selfish," she said. "I was hoping you'd come around. I had a client on video. Camera on. She knocked while I was presenting. You should have planned better. I took a breath. Mom, you lied to them. You told them I confirmed when you knew I hadn't. Whatever problems came out of this today, the scramble, the stress, Amber having to redo their plans, that's because of what you did, not because of me. Everything is always so dramatic with you. You sit at your computer all day, you don't have kids, you don't understand what it's like. I understand that my work pays my rent. I understand that people depend on me professionally the same way they depend on Trevor in his office. I understand that being single and working from home does not make me less busy or less important than anyone else in this family. She started to say something about family obligation, about how she raised us to take care of each other, about how I'd regret this one day when I actually had a real job and real responsibilities. I interrupted her. It's the first time in 31 years that I've done it. I'm done with this conversation, I said. When you're ready to talk to me like an adult, I'm here. And I hung up. My brother called that evening. I answered because I wanted him to hear it directly from me, the text, the timeline, what actually happened at my door. He was quiet for most of it. When I finished, he said, "She told us you'd already said yes, that you were excited about it. I know." Another silence. Then, "That wasn't okay, what she did." "No," I said, "it wasn't. He didn't apologize on her behalf, and I didn't expect him to." He said they ended up rescheduling the Phoenix trip for February, which cost them a rebooking fee that he was pretty unhappy about. He didn't say who he was unhappy with. I let it sit. In the weeks after, my mom went quiet in that pointed way she does when she's decided to be the injured party. She didn't call. She texted once to say she'd sent a card to the girls on my behalf, since I clearly didn't have time. I did not respond to that. My brother texted me a few times. Normal stuff, a meme, a question about whether I was coming to Christmas, a photo of Lily with a new haircut. Normal felt like a lot, coming from him. I took it. Christmas came. I went. My mom was cordial in the way that people are when they're performing civility for an audience. She did not bring up the incident. Neither did I. Addison showed me a drawing she'd done at school, and Lily fell asleep on my lap after dinner, and I held very still for 45 minutes because I didn't want to move her. My brother caught my eye across the room at one point and gave me this small, tired nod. I nodded back. There are things in families that don't get resolved so much as absorbed. You learn to exist alongside them. But here is the thing that changed. The thing that I keep coming back to when I think about that week in December. I said no, and the world did not fall apart. My clients got their reports. My deliverables went out on time. The girls were fine. Their parents figured it out, the way parents are supposed to. My brother went to Phoenix in February and sent me a photo of the two of them at a rooftop restaurant with the mountains behind them, and they looked happy, genuinely happy. The vacation still happened, it just happened differently. My mom is still my mom. She still calls and tells instead of asks. She probably always will. But something shifted in me that Tuesday afternoon when she said I already told them you'd do it, and I said no anyway, and held that line even when the girls were standing in my hallway with their backpacks and I felt like the worst person alive. I didn't owe my family my livelihood. I didn't owe anyone my professional credibility because the calendar happened to say December and someone needed childcare, and I was the one without kids, sitting in my apartment, assumed to be available by default. I love my nieces. I would do a lot for them. But I am a person with a career that I built, with clients who depend on me, with rent due on the first, just like everyone else. Working from home is not the same as not working. Being single is not the same as having nothing going on. Being the youngest is not the same as being the family's default fallback plan. If anyone reads this and sees something of themselves, if you've ever gotten off a call with a parent and just sat there staring at the wall, running the math of how much it would cost you to say yes and how much it would cost you to say no, I want you to know that the people who love you do not get to decide what your obligations are. They can ask. They can hope. They can even be disappointed. But they do not get to volunteer your time, your home, or your labor and then call you selfish when the reality doesn't match the version of you they invented. Say it once. Say it clearly. Put it in writing if you have to. And then hold the line. I've thought about that December a lot since it happened. Not with regret, more like the way you replay something to understand it better, to figure out exactly where the shift happened and why it mattered. What my mother did wasn't new. She'd been making decisions on my behalf my entire life and calling it love. The difference that December was that I finally understood the cost of staying quiet. Every time I'd gone along with something I hadn't agreed to, every time I'd let her hang up before I could finish a sentence, every time I told myself it was easier to just absorb it, I was teaching her that it worked. That was on me as much as it was on her. Actions accumulate. Patterns don't appear out of nowhere. She volunteered my time to Trevor and Amber because she'd volunteered it before and nothing had stopped her. The whole situation was, in a very real way, a consequence of years of me choosing the path of least resistance. That's not me being harsh on myself, it's just honest. When we let things slide long enough, we become part of the system that makes them possible. The moment I sent that text, clear, written, time-stamped, was the moment I stopped being part of that system. And when Amber showed up at my door mid-call anyway, I had to decide whether all of it had meant anything, whether I was actually going to hold the line, or whether I was going to look at Addison's face and fold the way I always had. I didn't fold, and what followed wasn't chaos. Trevor rescheduled. They went to Phoenix in February. The girls were fine. My clients got their work on time. The things my mother said would fall apart if I said no. They didn't fall apart. They just rearranged. That's usually how it goes. The disaster is almost always a threat, not a guarantee. There's something about being underestimated by people who are supposed to know you that has a strange way of clarifying things. My mother looked at my life, the apartment, the laptop, the absence of a traditional office, and decided it didn't count as much as Trevor's. That judgment said nothing true about me. But sitting with it, pushing back against it, and watching my work hold up anyway, that did something for me that no amount of reassurance from anyone else could have done. I proved it to myself. That's the only proof that actually sticks. Intelligence isn't just knowing things, it's being able to read a situation clearly without letting loyalty or guilt blur the picture. Holding your ground when someone you love is pushing isn't cruelty. It's honesty. And honesty, even when it costs something in the short term, tends to pay back over time. Not in dramatic ways, not all at once, but in the quiet steadiness of knowing you didn't betray yourself when it mattered. Trevor's nod at Christmas meant something to me. He didn't have to acknowledge it. He chose to. That was its own kind of answer. I still love my mother. That didn't change. But love doesn't require me to be endlessly available, endlessly accommodating, endlessly willing to absorb the consequences of decisions she makes without asking me. It never did. I just needed December to finally believe it.